today's episode, nutrition is what we're talking about. My guest today is Karina Rosser, a registered and licensed dietitian with over a decade of experience. She owns KR Nutrition and Health Coaching and has helped thousands of people across one-on-one coaching, everything from sports and performance, nutrition to weight management, muscle building, menopause, GLP-1 management, chronic medical conditions like diabetes, heart disease, pregnancy, postpartum nutrition. She is also a busy mom of two and a marathon runner herself. Karina, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Doctor. I'm super excited to be here because if there's a wheelhouse, this is it for me.
So tell us what actually changes nutritionally when women after 40s and beyond, hormonally and metabolically, that makes the advice we followed in our 20s and 30s stop working.
Absolutely. So this is something I see a lot. Biggest thing here, something feels different, but you don't know why, right? It's not the same as it was in your 20s and 30s. You're gaining weight, but you're doing the same things. Your performance is decreasing, but again, you're doing the same thing. So it's like, what is going on? So let's talk about that. There's a lot to unpack there. So when it comes to your hormonal health, the biggest thing we're looking at here is perimenopause, menopause, postmenopause, right? In this season of life, your hormones are going wild. There's lots of fluctuations. Your estrogen is dropping, your progesterone, your LH, your testosterone. There's so much going on. And with all of that, you have your cortisol, your insulin, your hunger hormones. There's just so much going on. And that's what's really going on in the inside, which is impacting, again, your performance, your weight, how you store body fat, your sleep. And all of that impacts directly, of course, everything, So all those things that you're feeling is totally, totally, totally normal and you're not alone. But it's like, what can we do to, combat all of that? And that's when nutrition comes into play for sure. One of the biggest things there I work on a lot with my clients is, okay, working through all of these body changes that are happening, for sure. The big thing that you need to know, again, your metabolism isn't broken, but it certainly changes as a byproduct, though, of what is happening in general during, this season of life. So a lot of times you could see loss of lean muscle mass, the reduced daily movement at this age, at this season of life. Again, the hormonal changes which affect the appetite and energy. Again, like I said, you'll see a lot of the fat storage shifts, mostly around the midsection. Your lean muscle mass declines. Insulin sensitivity could decrease slightly. Bone breakdown, cholesterol levels sometimes increase. There's a lot going on, but it's all byproduct of what's happening with your hormones. Another big thing you need to know is, as in this season of life, your muscle loss accelerates big time. So that's why it's super important that we're going to talk a lot about how to combat that nutritionally, and of course, throughout your training on your running journey as well.
When it comes to fueling long runs after 40, does the classic eat before you're hungry or drink before you're thirsty rule still hold? Or does that need updating from your standpoint?
Yes. So actually, that is 100% true. You need to be fueling and hydrating ahead of the game. You do not want to wait. You do not want to sleep on it. And I tell my people that I work with, I don't care if you're not hungry or thirsty. You need to get ahead of the game, because if you're out there on a over 60-minute run, you are going to hit that wall if you are not fueling and hydrating ahead of time. So I know it's hard to eat, early morning, busy moms, busy dads, 5 a.m. You're trying to force down a bagel and peanut butter before you're heading out the door, but you have to. You literally have to make it a priority, or you are going to be playing catch up on the long run. You're going to hit the wall, but then most importantly, your recovery is going to suck, and then that is going to play into your next run, and then it's just going to be a horrible, horrible cycle. So you need to be fueling ahead of the game. That is super, super crucial. So a typical rule of thumb, depending on, this is super individualized. I like to see at least 50 grams of carbohydrates within 1 hour prior to your workout or your run. I like to see 50 to 100, 120 grams of carbs during your run for anything over 1 hour, depending. People could push 120 grams of carb per hour if you train your gut. And then after your runs, I like to see you prioritizing your carbs and your protein, within an hour. Again, just even though you're not hungry right after. I know that's a lot of problem people have, but even if it's a protein shake, something small, just get something to start repairing those muscles that you just tore down. So yes, always eat and drink before you are hungry and thirsty.
Exactly. Underfueling is one of the most common things I see contributing to stress reactions and bone injuries in this age group. How much do runners over 40 actually need? And how do you get someone who is used to undereating to actually eat more?
Yeah, so another big pain point here. A lot of people think the protein's going to make me bulky, it's going to make me gain weight, and that is completely false. So I'm going to squash that right there. Completely false. You need the protein. Protein's so important, just not for muscle building in general, just for preserving it as well. As you are running those miles, your muscle fibers are breaking down, and we want to prevent that as much as possible. Again, for performance, for recovery, and again, just to maintain your muscle mass throughout the whole training cycle and in life in general.
Yeah.
So obviously, again, under fueling is a big thing that it's a lot of people say it's so hard to hit that protein target. How do I hit that protein goal? And that's when we work strategically to come up with solutions. Okay, we're going to do this, that, or the other thing to get that protein up. So when you're looking for your daily protein target, definitely work with a dietitian or someone who can help you calculate that. In general, 1.2 to 2 grams per kilogram of your body weight, a good range there. For runners, I like to see my runners 1.5 to 1.8 up to 2 grams again per kilogram of your actual body weight. So if you do the math there, or you can use an online calculator to help you figure that out. But you cannot fear more food. You cannot fear more protein. And the biggest thing there, I always say too, if you can't eat it, if you think it's just too much, drink it. Shakes, smoothies, any way to get it in. It's super important.
A lot of our runners also worry about bone health, stress fractures, osteopenia, osteoporosis. What are practical calcium and vitamin D targets, and how do you balance that against the training load, Karina?
Absolutely. So a big thing here, you don't want the S word, stress fracture, or even, osteoporosis down the road. And so with running and just life in general, as you know, calcium, vitamin D, they're going to play a crucial role in this season of life, especially over 40. So when looking at your calcium targets for the day, 1,000 milligrams per day is a good maintenance level. Anything over 50, obviously that increases a little bit as we age, 1,200 milligrams per day. When you look at vitamin D recommendations as well, that's a lot of what I'm in the Northeast. I'm in NEPA, so we are all vitamin D deficient here. So
Right.
it is. If you are not vitamin D deficient, you're like a unicorn. So it's super important to get it in for maintenance. Usually around 1,000 to 2,000 IU's per day to optimize, your bone health, prevent the stress fractures, and to support your recovery. So a lot of people are like, "What the heck? Foods have vitamin D and calcium." So a lot of foods that you could start adding in: fortified foods, fortified milk, oily fish, egg yolks are a big one, chicken breast, like I said, fortified cereals or dairy products. And then of course with calcium, your dairy, your Greek yogurts, your cottage cheese, your even like your protein shakes. You put your milk in there and mix it up with some Greek yogurt, with some leafy greens, even in fruits. Perfect. So definitely make sure this is super important as well. A lot of people think just those macronutrients are the main targets. We got to remember the micronutrients because they are just as important.
Exactly. Bone density loss plus training load is the exact combination that leads to stress fractures in my clinic. Trying to lose weight, but scared of losing pace and energy. So, how do you keep a runner fueled enough to still hit her paces while losing weight? Or is there such thing?
Yeah, there is such thing. So this was something I needed to shift myself. If the first thing I asked is, what are your goals? Is your main goal performance? Are you going for a BQ? Are you going for a big PR? Or are you just running for fun, running for health, etc.? If you are training for that big PR, big BQ, whatever, you really don't want to have weight loss as your number one priority. If you are training, for fun, of course, yeah, you could, do weight loss. If you're like, no, I want to do both. Okay, so what I usually do for my athletes is I will recommend, okay, we could do a cut, But once you are, 2 months out from that race, you need to be in a maintenance phase. So it is possible. You could still cut, as you're building up the miles. But like I said, once you hit that 2 month mark, you want to be in maintenance phase and make sure you're focusing on performance and not that scale number. So it definitely could be done. So one thing I do with my runners is that are in a deficit while losing, we are in a deficit, but we are not in an aggressive deficit. We are not in something that, could, you're seeing 2 pounds a week on the scale going down. Half a pound a week, maybe a pound is a good rule of thumb, because you don't want to go out on those runs and be feeling like garbage. You still want to be performing and feeling like the athlete you are.
Yeah.
So there is, that fine line there of, okay, am I willing to compromise my performance for the number on the scale, or do I really want to focus on my performance and be okay maintaining a couple 5 pounds up or whatever? So this might help somebody. Myself, as I am going for performance right now, I'm up 5 pounds, 7 pounds on the scale. And I think when I'm sitting a couple pounds up, my performance is so much better. So try to reframe those thoughts that it's not always about being the lowest number on the scale. And a lot of people get caught up with just trying to be their lowest weight, which it takes a lot of work to reframe that mindset. But once you do that, big things could happen with your running.
Reverse dieting, it's trending hard right now, especially in space of midlife women's. As a registered dietitian, what's your honest take? What's real and what's overhyped, and who is actually for and who is it's not for?
So I agree with reverse dieting, and I use this method with my clients, who are in a weight loss phase for a prolonged period of time, because you cannot just go through a a weight loss phase and just expect to just go down, 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 down. You need diet breaks, and you need to let your body reset and refocus and really take the time it needs to kind of, again, just come together and then revisit the cut. So so the way a reverse diet works, say you're in a cut or a deficit or the same thing, fat loss. So I would probably walk my clients through a 6 to 8 to 12 week reverse, which is bumping up the calories back up, more flexible tracking and everything, letting what's going on inside, reset. Because let's be honest, when you are in a fat loss phase, that's a lot of stress on your body inside, mentally as well. So the reverse diet really helps you take a break. With that, and then you come back stronger in the cut and finish out the cut or whatever you want to do. It's very beneficial with runners because, again, underfueling is so common in this community, which we don't even realize. But a reverse diet and actually, living in a calorie maintenance or calorie surplus helps performance so much more. So I would say the biggest thing to remember here, what's overhyped, with the reverse dieting, that it could repair your metabolism. And I'm going to fight that and say your metabolism's fine. It's not broken. It just needs to be managed properly. You need to have the, right systems and support in place to make that happen. And another, myth or something that's overhyped is that you could eat hundreds more calories without gaining. No, a reverse diet needs to be managed properly, slowly bumping up the calories. I'm talking 50 to 100 calories for a couple weeks and then maybe 50 more. If you just throw back 500 calories, you're going to gain the weight back. And you're going to see that in your performance. And then you'll be like, oh my gosh, I feel so heavy and everything. So you definitely have to do it strategically.
Chronic underfueling shows up as fatigue fractures and slow healing. And then let's talk about hydration. Hot
Mm-hmm.
flashes, changing sweat pattern comes up a lot in perimenopause. How does that changes your hydration and electrolyte recommendations for training and races?
Yeah. So when someone's going through perimenopause, the first thing that they complain about, hot flashes and like sweating profusely. And of course, as we know, when you're sweating, that's your fluid loss that's happening. And we want to prevent that at all costs as runners, because we sweat enough. We don't need more. We don't need extra sweat. So, again, and that's what during perimenopause, menopause, in the season of life, those hormones that we talked about previously, they affect body temperature regulation, your blood vessel dilation, your sweat production, sleep quality. A lot of the hot flashes, come in the middle of the night. thirst, everything. So you really want to make sure that you are hydrating properly to prevent any of this, because you might feel hotter during your running, you might sweat more during your runs, and that leads to, if you're, dehydrated, you're going to have poor recovery, poor performance, you're going to feel fatigued. The last thing you want to do is be dehydrated. So before a run, definitely, again, this comes back to the one of the previous questions. You need to drink before you're thirsty. So that's one of the mistakes I made as a runner myself. I never would carry water with me on runs, and I don't know why, because you just feel so much better when you do. So say 16, 24 ounces before you go out there during the run. Um, and also just watch your pee. Make sure your pee is clear. Make sure your pee is not dark yellow. If you see dark yellow pee or even slightly yellow pee, go drink. You got to listen to your body. During the runs lasting, over an hour, you need to make sure 14, 20 ounces per hour. But again, you could calculate your sweat rate and see actually what you need throughout these runs. That's a different podcast we could talk about, but you definitely need to make sure that you're listening to your body and don't let your mouth get dry. For electrolytes, give or take anything over an hour. If you are a heavy sweater, which especially if you're going through perimenopause, menopause, you probably are, you should add in some electrolytes. They have so many like LMNTs and IV hydrations and all that you could get it in. But I always say good old salt your foods, get the electrolytes in that way. But say 300 milligrams per hour, you might lose 600. Again, very individualized there with what you actually sweat. But I I do take electrolytes on my longer runs, and I do think they are beneficial. But again, you need to listen to your body and know how much you lost and everything like that. So don't play around with it. It's not a guessing game. Really figure out what you need, your sweat loss ratio and all that, and stay hydrated.
A growing number of our audience these days, they are on GLP-1 medications and still training. What should runners on these watch for? Energy dips, muscle loss, fueling gaps, and how do you coach around it?
Yeah, this is a lot of the population right now. As we know, GLP-1s are on the rise. So what do we do? So I have a lot of experience with runners and clients just on GLP-1s, and some of the biggest things you need to be aware of right off the bat. Again, under fueling, muscle loss, dehydration, all the three things we do not want happening as runners, right? So underfueling comes with, when you're on a GLP-1, you're just not hungry. Your appetite completely subsides. You look at food, you're just like, oh, sometimes, and that food noise is totally off. So again, this comes back to eating before you're actually hungry when you are fueling like this. We don't want to skip meals. We don't want to eat portions that are for a toddler. We don't want to be afraid of replacing the calories that we burned on those runs. We need to be, you know, fueling right. The muscle loss, if we are not, strength training with the running, we're going to lose the muscle. If you're not hitting your protein, you're going to lose your muscle.
Yeah.
People could lose 7 to 10% plus of their muscle loss on GLP-1. So super, super important that you want to be doing all the right things to make sure that you're not doing that. And dehydration, of course, that's another huge pillar in the GLP-1s that you want to make sure you're really nailing in, because again, under fueling, you just forget to drink, you forget to eat. You need to make sure that pee is clear, because if you don't, though, you're going to experience low energy during your runs, poor recovery, plateaued performance, all things that we want to totally avoid.
You're a busy mom, juggling coaching, you have kids, and you told me you were preparing for a marathon yourself. What does realistic fueling and meal prep actually look like for a time crunched runner?
Yeah, absolutely. This is super important because with busy schedules, with the kids, with work, with training, fueling gets pushed aside. You are eating your kids' scraps, you're just hitting up drive-throughs, it's just not ideal when you're focusing on performance in running. So I hear a lot, oh, I didn't have time to eat, I didn't drink all day, I was running a million places here or there. No, you need to prep and plan ahead of time if you want to set yourself up for success. You always want to have quick and easy staples. You could just grab and go: bagels, bananas, fruit pouches, things like protein bars, protein shakes, rotisserie chickens, deli turkey, things you can just grab and go and run out the door with that don't even need prep. So I use the crock pot a lot. You throw chicken or a meat in the crock pot so you have your protein for the week. Use steamable vegetable bags like for your produce. Use minute rice pouches, steamable sweet potatoes. All these things take less than 5 minutes to throw in a microwave. It's just that making sure you're set up for success and don't forget your own goals because you cannot live off 2 bites of your kids' bananas if you're going out there on a 2 hour run. And then another thing with hydration, invest in a water bottle, a big, cute, fun water bottle that works well. And it could be your support water bottle. I bring this everywhere with me. So I always am hydrated. It's just attached at my hip and there's no excuses to not get your water in. So biggest takeaway here, failing to plan is planning to fail. So you need to plan, set yourself up for success, map out your week, map out your days, and know that you need to be taking care of yourself.
Of everything you coach, what's one nutrition habit that makes the biggest difference for runners over 40? And how do you get it to actually stick them long term?
Consistency is my favorite word, I think. Consistency is key. Absolutely. You need to be consistent with every habit, but this isn't going to happen overnight. This is not something that you're going to wake up and be the perfect client tomorrow. It takes months, it takes years. So you just got to keep working on it. And another big thing you have to remember too is everybody's journey is super individualized. Everybody has their stuff going on. Everybody is in a different season of life. And what worked for me might not work for you. And what works for Sally might not work for Karen. So you need to just make sure that you are focusing on what works for you. Really, really fine tune your nutrition and your hydration around your lifestyle and not what other people are doing or not what other people say on social media, besides us. But and another big habit that you need to know, if you are preparing for a race, if you are going for a race, you need to be practicing your nutrition and hydration prior to race day. That is the biggest takeaway there. You do not want to be on the course trying something new and be in the porta potty. I have done that and it is not fun. So you need to work with somebody and figure out the best approach for you. And number one thing, you got to stay consistent and it will get better and easier.
Karina, this was incredible. I feel like every runner over 40 watching this just got a permission slip to stop under fueling. Tell everyone where they can find you and how to work with you.
You can hop over on my social medias. I'm at Karina Rosser _RDN at on Instagram, Karina Rosser on Facebook. I have a website, which is www.krnutritionandhealth.com. And that's how you can find me. You can reach out, even if you want to just reach out and chat and ask me what macros you should be following or any quick tips and advice, reach out and I'll answer everybody.
Check out Karina. I'll put her link in the description below. If this episode helped you, share it with a running buddy who needs to hear this. Subscribe if you have not done already. And I will see you next time on Helping Women Run After 40. Karina, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I hope this helps.